green on the screen as we're comfortably holding out for the frontliners. Can't quite say the same for the broader markets, just teetering on the brink of the red and the green right now as we are seeing a little bit of selling pressure kick in. Even on the frontline index, names like Infosys, Dr. Reddy's, Britannia, as well as Divi's Laboratories and Hero Moto are looking a tad sketchy, while within the broader universe, we're holding on by the skin of our teeth, and there are names like Dixon, MMTC, BHEL in the green, but Edelweiss, IFCI, Honeywell, REC, InfoEdge, as well as Emphasis, by and large mid-cap IT, as well as the likes of IGL and IOB are under a bit of pressure. But let's take stock of what's going on within the retail industry. The recent reports seem to indicate that now there is a decisive bounce back to pre-COVID levels, and now they're on the brink of a full recovery. Let's understand whether or not that assessment holds true with Kumar Rajagopalan. He's the CEO of the Retailers Association of India. Thank you so much for taking time out. Is that actually true? Are we seeing Mr. Rajagopalan complete quite a decisive recovery to the pre-COVID levels? How is business around this time versus the same time last year?
The month of February definitely was showing good indications of recovery. Overall retail, for modern retail at least, has shown negative of 7% over February of last year, which if we all remember, it used to be 50% negative to 40% negative to 30% negative. It's now come to a very small amount of margin. Of course, there are segments or categories that has done very well. Electronics and home products are all doing well even now. In fact, they are showing very good growth over last year. The QSR and some of the food segments have started showing some good recovery, which means that people are wanting to eat out. The segments that are not doing so well as yet are garments, which is still showing about 12% less from last year. And then, of course, for footwear and allied items like, cosmetics, etc., which has not grown or come back to the levels of pre-COVID. We'll have to wait and watch, but we are definitely seeing some recovery, and those are good signs. Amongst the regions, the East is doing quite well, and that's a nice thing to think about. Whereas the west of the country is still going through some kind of a question mark. And of course, now that Maharashtra is seeing signs of more COVID cases coming in, it is a bit of a dampener. So we are cautiously optimistic.
Yes, indeed, that seems to be the case across the board. But if you could just give us a sense as to what the update is then when it comes to footfalls, and even, within certain markets that you're seeing, you're talking about the East, what's it like in big cities with now this fear of another lockdown coming in, very stringent measures being adopted, and how do you see things panning out business-wise?
Footfalls are still not at the last year's level. I mean, footfalls are hovering around the 70% levels. People who come in are buying more. The malls are yet to see proper footfalls. In many of the shopping centers in the country, the footfalls are about 60 to 65% levels. So that's something that needs to be recovered. And obviously, because some of those things that really attract consumers to shopping centers is still not complete. The food is available, but not in the manner in which one would really like to come in and enjoy. The theaters are sometimes open, sometimes there is a worry. So those are things, and plus there is not enough of software available in the movie theaters. So I think it's still something that needs to be recovered. The optimism was really nice until the last couple of weeks, where suddenly there has been a spike, especially in Maharashtra and some of the other parts of the country, but predominantly in Maharashtra. And we do hope that it doesn't continue, because if this takes up a reverse turn and if we get a resurgence of pandemic, then all of us are not going to be in a very nice shape in terms of business.
Indeed. But Kumar, are you seeing more retailers now on the digital platforms as opposed to, physical? And can you give us more color on whether or not you see this trend actually pick up more in the times to come? And has it really caught up with smaller businesses yet?
That's a good question. Most of the retailers have taken a digital avatar also. We all call it now the phygital retail business, because there is still the physical is still predominant. It still accounts for 95 to 98% of the business, depending upon where you are. But many of the consumers have started doing their discovery phase of shopping digitally. And that's quite an interesting thing, which means that many customers want to interact with the brand, understand what's available, find out the prices, etc. Even as they sit at home and they're doing other work. It's at a particular point of time, they decide what they want, then they go into the store and quickly buy it and come back, which explains why even if there's a shorter amount of footfall, the business is looking not so bad, because they have already done pre-shopping inside their houses. And that's something that most of the retailers are adopting in their own ways. Very small retailers, the nearby kiranas have all adopted social media, WhatsApp kind of things to be able to tell their customers what's available latest. The slightly larger ones have taken a more elaborate methodology of showcasing their products and services. But one thing is for sure, digital is here to stay, and consumers would be interacting very seamlessly between physical and digital. The other fact that we are also seeing is purely digital is not necessarily the way to go also, because many of the consumers are now finding that when they go and shop from a brand that they trust, and the brand that they trust more often are brands that they can go and see, touch and feel and know who the retailer is, it actually accounts for better business. So consumers want to have lots more sense of trust with somebody that they know, but they definitely want that particular retailer to be available digitally.
Okay. Just wanted to also understand from you what the outlook is when it comes to the consumption mix. Do you think that is still tilted towards essentials, more need-based purchases, or people are also now making discretionary purchases?
The concept of discretionary and essentials is definitely changed. For example, many of the consumers, since they have been now accustomed to being at home and doing various things at home, have started re-looking at what they really need at home. And the same house, which was before COVID, just a house that they'd come in and possibly sleep and then would go back to work the next day, it's now become a house, come office, come school, come various things. So it's almost become like a fortress or like a stage which needs to keep changing every time during the day, which means that the parts of items that they want at various points changes. Everybody in the house needs to have their own independent screen to work with. Everybody in the house will definitely be wanting to have some space for themselves, at least an alcove where they can really sit and work. While the parents are working from one part of the house, the kids have to be doing their schooling from one part of the house. Now, these are things that's needed. Similarly, consumers have also started having a little bit of functions and celebrations and attending weddings, etc. So that kind of attire and that kind of needs have also gone up. The need for making the kitchen slightly more versatile is also gone up. So those are things that's doing well, and that's visible from the categories that's doing well. The sports items are doing quite well. Again, consumers have started going out and interacting more on things that will take care of their physical requirements, because they don't necessarily want to go to office every day or need to go to office every day. So that's also changed. So the discretion to essential is slightly changed. It's more to do with work from home and allied items plus functions and celebrations, and not so much about having office wear available with them the whole time. Whereas in the earlier days, they would be wanting to look at daily office wear as one of the key things that they'd want to buy. Now that's slightly reduced. We hope that it comes back, but one doesn't know.
All right, we'll let you go on that note. Thank you so much, Mr. Rajagopalan, for giving us a view as to what the outlook is in terms of recovery for the retail sector as a whole.